Okay, this is Orlando Wilson. What I want to talk about in this video is human rights. And that's a topic these days. It's very fluid. I think human rights depends on whether you get human rights, depends on who you are, where you are, and what political system you're following or you believe in, etc., etc. I don't think a lot of the people that push for global human rights are pretty hypocritical, but maybe I'll cover that in another video. Reason for this video, the past few days, and again this video might go out in a couple of weeks time, so let me just explain this time frame. In the last few days there's been major issues in Ecuador where the narcos have kicked off, the drugs gangs have kicked off and been robbing, raping, kidnapping, etc. And all this has been predicted. I wrote an article about Ecuador over 12 months ago because the writing was on the wall that the narcos were getting more and more powerful and nobody was doing anything about it. Most probably because people didn't want to hurt the narcos' human rights or hurt their feelings or something. Anyway, what escalated? There was murders, police were murdered, there was how many kidnappings, mess. But all this could have been prevented. Anyway, what amused me, and I find things like this amusing these days, is where a few of the media outlets, when the military was called in to restore order and the military was rounding up gang members, were reporting how brutally the military was treating the gang members, how brutally they were abusing the gang members. And it's like, hold on a minute, these are the guys that 10 minutes ago were just raping, murdering and kidnapping, and now the media is taking the side of, which they all do in a lot of places, taking the side of rapists, murderers and kidnappers. You know what, we see this quite often in a lot of places where a lot of criminals go out and commit crimes, and in the media's eyes they're sweet little angels. When law enforcement does get involved and these criminals, how can we put it, do get a slap, then law enforcement's in the wrong. Even though the people that they're arresting, and they might get arrested roughly or they're dealt with, in a lot of places they're shot, etc., are career criminals that were out committing crimes against innocent people, and really they got what they deserved, but the media treats them as angels. This is a big political thing in the United States. I'm not going to get into it politically, I'm just quoting what I see as being right and wrong. In the US, yes, a lot of the police shootings are very questionable, but in a lot of other cases the police are doing the right thing, and they end up having a lot of problems because some career criminal ends up being hurt, ends up being shot, and the police are wrong for doing it, when the criminal was a lot of times was actually committing a crime in the first place. I think, give the dues to the president of Ecuador, I think from what I see from media reports, he came out and said, he warned the judges, he warned people, if you take the side of the criminals, if you take the side of the narcos, if you take the side of these people and you're going out of your way to represent them and paint them in a shiny light as being little angels, then you'll suffer the same, then you're going to have the same consequences as they did. You'll face the same laws that they face as being part of their gang. You'll be gang members. I think this is the way you need to treat organized crime. It's like, I see there's how many criminal defense lawyers, and again they make good money representing scumbags and getting scumbags off with a lot of crimes. And again, I'm not going to go into listing crimes, but there's how many crimes where, again, use US as an example, there's how many examples of crimes in the US where people were known to be guilty but they've walked out of court scot-free. Why? They have good lawyers. The lawyers paid off the right people, they paid off the right people, the judges got donations, etc. That's how things work. So this is where I think the whole thing as far as human rights is concerned is very, very questionable these days. A lot of it depends who you are, where you are, and what political affiliations you got, whether you get human rights. Years ago, in 2008, we were accused of human rights abuses in training the police to torture people in Mexico. Risk Incorporated had a lot of bad press on that, but you know what? It wasn't bad press really, because we didn't do anything wrong. In the end, it was proven it was training, etc. It was a political move by political parties to try and discredit people within the state government we was working for. That's it. We got drawn into it. Was there anything wrong? Was there any human rights abuses? Of course not. But the media painted a story. So this is where I see a lot of issues these days when people are screaming about human rights. It's like you have to look deeper than actually what's on the surface. A lot of the people that cry victim about human rights are just as dirty as the people that's abusing their human rights, and vice versa. I'm not going to go into certain conflicts, but it also makes me laugh when I hear governments, be it the American government, the British government, European governments, going on about human rights, especially when they're looking at human rights in Africa and other places. It's like, oh, but there's a human rights abuse. You know what? How many people have been killed due to NATO wars in, well, Iraq was proven to be an illegal war. How many people were there? How many people had their human rights abused there, down to Tony Blair and, I think Bush was the president in the US, the second Bush, Tony Blair and the second Bush. How many people died? How many people had their human rights abused over weapons of mass destruction that everybody knew didn't exist? Look at the war in Afghanistan. How many civilians were killed? How many civilians have been killed in Pakistan? How many civilians have been killed in other places? Look at the recent war in Ukraine. How many civilians have been killed and bombed indiscriminately? But that's the Russians committing human rights violations. All the Western bombs didn't hit civilians, right? Of course not. And we won't talk about Gaza, where, to me, both sides are guilty, so it's another complete and utter mess. But human rights are reserved for the people that the media like and the systems like. So I think these days people need to open their eyes and be a little bit more clear as far as human rights are concerned. And you know what, as I said in the title of this video, human rights go to the people that deserve them. People that do nothing wrong and just want to get on with their lives, they deserve human rights. If people are rapists, murderers, kidnappers, and career criminals, in my book, they don't deserve human rights. They deserve their own medicine. And I think for the victims, I mean, it's only fair for the victims that the people that victimize them, the criminals, the narcos, the rapists, the murderers, etc., get their own medicine. They don't deserve human rights. Anyway, just my opinion on something which is very murky these days and very shady these days and not particularly clear. Human rights belong to those that deserve them. If people don't deserve them, then goodbye. Anyway, follow me along on social media for more of my opinions. We've got a load of videos up to talk about various aspects of security business, etc., etc. We're verging a little bit into politics. And also follow me along on social media. I like LinkedIn. We're up on LinkedIn quite often, and also X, formerly known as Twitter, because there's a lot we can say a lot more things on there we can't say on other platforms. And the other platforms we use are BS, to be honest, but we have to use them. So follow me along on social media, check out the other videos we got up, and also don't forget I have an array of books up on Amazon to talk about various topics. So be good, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and don't believe everything the media tells you.